Hey, friends, and welcome back to Becoming Unbound, the podcast that's all about breaking free from the boxes we've been put in and rewriting the rules. Whether it's a job, relationship, money, or mindset, we are here to redefine freedom in every form. These are stories of what it looks like to step outside the lines and become unbound. So today's guest is the amazing Terri Boucher, a conservative dating coach who helps women raise their standards, lean into their femininity, and attract the kind of love that they've been praying for. She is not afraid to say the hard things, always keeps it real, and brings a dose of tough love wrapped in deep self-worth. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. Let's dive in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thanks for being here. This is awesome. I know that we had connected and you were sort of one of the only other people that I have one other friend who had a podcast. And so I feel like I definitely took some inspiration from you to start my own podcast. So thank you from future me to say thank you for sort of inspiring me to be like, okay, you know what? If there's other girls in this group that I'm in, like have a podcast, I can do the same thing. So thank you for that bit of inspiration.
Totally. And I'm so excited for you. I feel like having a podcast is so fun. It's so great to be able to talk about whatever you want and such an important topic such as freedom. So
yeah, it's really cool. It's the best part of my week and like putting it all together. I absolutely love it from like everything that I did from the launch. And it just totally like I can feel this fire every single time before I start a conversation with someone amazing. It's like, this is part of my freedom and becoming unbound because I am so lit up by it. And I feel like that's a great testament to know that you are in alignment, right?
that's amazing.
So do we want to talk about a little bit of like how we got to know each other, a little bit of your story, and then we can dive right in?
Yeah, sounds good. How did we get to know each other? I'm like, was it at Kayla's event
It was at the summit last September. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because I was thinking that's what it was. And then I feel like we stayed in contact since then. But my life has been a bit of a roller coaster, been crazy. And us getting aligned to do this podcast has been a little while. I feel like you've been chasing me down for a little bit. And I felt bad because I've just been like, my life is crazy. I need a minute. Like, but yeah, that's how we met. Hey, and I'm so excited that we did. And it's so amazing that we get to meet such incredible people within like our little community. It's so great.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. When you meet people that are aligned, it's like, it feels so natural. Like everyone in that room was just like, every single person there needs to be on my podcast. Like it's so cool because you just like, there's this automatic comfort or safety to like, I can be myself with you. I can discuss the weird, wild things that whatever it is that my soul wants to like chat about. And it just feels so natural. So I feel like when you become in alignment with your values, all of a sudden the people that you can bring in and talk to and have conversations is so natural. And it's so amazing to be a part of that community that our coach put together. Like it's really wild. And I am forever grateful for everybody that I met at the summit and like following along everyone's Instagram and just, yeah, it's really, really cool. And I love how like we're all kind of like on each other's podcast too, which is a really sweet benefit of that. So yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your coaching, what you do, how maybe you found a little bit of maybe more alignment or freedom in your life.
Yeah, sounds good. So I started coaching a couple years ago, and I started coaching just kind of a very broad spectrum. Like I was coaching, confidence, just coaching women to better their life and that kind of thing. And when I first started coaching, it was very broad. It was very like just confidence coaching, just helping women better their life, the whole shebang. While in my own life, I was really actively working on being so authentically myself so that I could call in the right people, just like exactly what you were talking about, being so authentically myself, being brave, being bold, and having faith that if I was in true alignment with who I am as a person, the right people would come into my life. I had recently moved to Victoria, and I felt like I had no friends, and all the people that wanted to be friends with me were liberal, and I was just like, it wasn't an alignment in values, and they were like very far liberal. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all about being friends with different values and opinions and views, but I also want a lot of people in my life that like are in alignment and do share similar values and views, because just like you said, when you share those similar views and values, you feel kind of this like freedom to truly express yourself. So anyways, I went on this mission to be boldly myself, no matter what people thought of me. And it was just a mission to be authentic, be myself, call in the right people into my life, and become the best version of myself. And I did. And I called in some incredible people and realized that it wasn't the location, Victoria. It was my mindset, my perspective, how authentic I was being, the way I was calling people in. And I applied that same thing to dating. And I really, showed up on dates as fully myself, put in the reps, put in the effort, held my standards high, my expectations high, the whole shebang, because I was very vocal over the last few years how I'm looking for my husband. Like, I'm not looking for some casual dating fling. I'm not looking to be wishy-washy or to have low standards or a bare minimum boyfriend, whatever it is, I'm looking for my husband. So I set these same rules to dating. And then I ended up finding my man. And it made me realize, there are so many women that are doing dating so wrong. And they're showing up on dates as this dulled down version of themselves, as an inauthentic version of themselves, as, this banging in the background is very distracting. I want to go tell the guys downstairs to shut up, frankly. But anyways, okay. Yeah. So basically I took what I did and realized that there's so many women out there that need help. And so I help conservative women find their man. I help conservative women date intentionally, ultimately.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's so important, because I think it was an interview with Sarah Swain that said, like, you could bring on clients, you could attract relationships in your life where your set of values, whether it's political, whether it's just the values, how you run your life, keep your home, sort of the things that you hold in high regard, like, you could bring all those people in. And when things get tough and you want to start expressing yourself, are you going to be able to? Or will you constantly be living in this fear that all of a sudden you are just going to not be able to express who you are for fear that you're going to then lose those clients or lose those people or lose that relationship? So what is the end goal in that? Like, if you're wearing this mask around, playing to, maybe it's the moderates or the someone who has a more political, like, liberal frame of mind, like, is that who you want to be? Do you feel safe enough? Does your nervous system feel like you can be safe in that? So that's really fascinating. And I love how you started kind of broad and you niched down into something that was authentically from you, right? Like, this is what your journey was. And what better expert than someone who's been on that journey to help others onto the similar journey and to figure that out. So that's really amazing that you were able to sort of like see that maybe it was too much. You were trying to do everything and figure out what your sort of thing was. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious, like, you're very like sort of open about your perspectives on this. Do you have clients that come to you that like don't understand maybe what your framework is and you're like, oh, this isn't a good fit?
Hey friends, quick little interruption. You have something to say, something real, something that could change lives, but Instead, you're stuck Googling how to edit, how to post, and how to make your podcast actually go somewhere. You're overwhelmed, second guessing every step, and wondering if it's even worth it. That's where I come in. I help entrepreneurs and creatives launch and manage powerful podcasts that actually grow their audience and build their business. No more guessing, no more burnout. Just you showing up to speak while I handle the rest. I manage top-ranked shows around the world. Editing, done. Strategy, covered. Social content, handled. You record the magic and I take it from there. So if you're ready to finally make your podcast work for you and share your story with the people who need it most, go to carlybutlermedia.com and book a call. You don't have to figure this out alone. Now back to the episode.
Totally. I've definitely had people that I've had, an intro call with that are just not ready. They're just not ready. Like they're not coachable. They're not ready to take on a different perspective and frankly find their husband, because if you're so tied to the way that you've been doing things and you're not willing to change, you're like, oh, I want to find my person. I want to find my man. But like, this is the way I do things. And I am so set in my perspective and I'm not willing to change. Then there's nothing I can do to help you because you're not willing to change. And once you get so sick of your own stuff that it's worse than you're so sick of your own stuff that you need to change, then you're ready.
Yeah, it's kind of like hitting that rock bottom and you can't change until you kind of hit that point and you're like, oh, okay, now I have my reason to change what I'm doing because so far my nervous system or my body has been comfortable with the way I've been doing stuff. So yeah, that's really cool that you can kind of spot that right away because I think that's so important when you are becoming unbound is to like be able to have those hard no's to people who are like, and that's obviously in the entire framework of what you're doing is that when you reach a new relationship and like you said at the beginning, you are open to like having relationships or friendships with people who might have the same value. You can appreciate them as a human being that might influence your life or share a new perspective on something. And maybe not but and how can you be your full self and bring that kind of energy in and like be your authentic self in those situations? I don't know. I don't think I can.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's a practice. It's definitely a practice. It's a lot I find harder than if someone is on your side, on your team, like shares values, shares views and opinions. I do think we should all strive to be our authentic self, be ourself and voice, how we truly feel no matter who it is that's around. But it's a practice. It's like consciously choosing, in every conversation. Oh, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to consciously choose to like be myself, say what I want, and there's nuance to it, but yeah.
The first thing that popped up into my head and what I've struggled with is just the fear of rejection. Like, what happens if I do say what's on my mind or I don't agree with that person and the people pleaser in me is screaming at the top of her lungs, being like, don't you dare say that. Like, we are going to get shamed. We're going to get rejected. We won't be invited back in. Maybe this date won't like me. Maybe this new potential girlfriend won't want to like be my friend, or maybe I'll get fired from a job, or I won't be eligible for a job or something like that. Like it's this, I can understand why we do it. And I think it's so important to understand that and have that awareness to be like, that is your body trying to keep you safe and comfortable. And that's important too, until you realize that you're sacrificing all of who you are.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So was there a moment that you found like an awakening, whether it was like before you started coaching, or what was the moment where maybe you were feeling a little bit stuck and decided to completely change things? Because I know a lot of times like online coaches, that the whole mechanism behind that is to free yourself from something. So could you describe that moment? I know, or maybe many moments that you've had with that awakening process?
Yeah, totally. So definitely what woke me up was the whole craziness around COVID. Prior to COVID, I would say that I was a pretty liberal person. I was very much so like in my masculine energy, rah, feminism, the whole shebang. Didn't need a man. I wanted to be like the breadwinner, all of this. These are all things I thought before COVID. And I remember my dad was a Trump supporter, and this was like whatever election that was prior to COVID. My dad was talking about Trump and like wanting him to get into office and all this stuff. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my dad was a sexist and a racist. I didn't realize this. And I was just like disgusted by the fact that he was so for Trump. And then, my family has never really been pro pharmaceuticals. My mom has always been a very like holistic, crunchy mom, never put us on pills when unnecessary. And so when the vaccine started getting rolled out, I was like, I'm just going to wait. Like, I don't really think it's that necessary. I'm going to wait. I'm healthy. I don't feel a need for it. And frankly, I don't like needles. So I'm going to wait. And then as time went on and the mandates were getting rolled out and it was becoming mandatory to get this thing, and like nothing was adding up. Things were not making sense. And so I just kept standing my ground because I was like, this does not make sense. I'm not putting something experimental vaccine in my body, let alone any vaccine, And so I just kept pushing back and kept not doing it and whatever. And then the more and more I did that, the more and more I kept going down rabbit holes that I was like, nothing is making sense. What is going on? The government is not what I thought it was. I thought I could trust doctors. I thought I could trust the government. And frankly, I thought Trump was bad. So I would say it was around when the vaccine started getting mandated, and then, the trucker convoy and all of that very much so woke me up. And late into COVID, I went to school for 1 year for kinesiology. I thought I was going to go into school for kinesiology and then go into physiotherapy. And then I realized that I didn't want to be part of that system. And if I was in physiotherapy, I would be very much so part of that system. And it was on my mind, if they can regulate this system and mandate this system, I don't want to be in it because I want to be a sovereign being, And I'd always been very involved in personal growth and development since I was, 18 years old. And I felt very passionate about personal growth, development, growing myself, and just becoming a better person all the time. And so that's when I connected with our coach, Kaylor. And I remember going to him and saying, I just want some coaching. I don't want to start my own coaching. I'll maybe start my own coaching when I'm done school in like 8 years kind of thing. And he was kind of like, no, you're ready now. Like, you're ready now. Don't wait 8 years to get started. And so that's what I did. And then I ended up dropping out of school because that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think we often get in this trap of we think we need to go down a certain route because society says that we should, and get stuck in that. And then we do that for so many years. And then there's that time commitment that we put into something, and then that prevents us from doing what we actually want to, what our soul actually calls us to do. So yeah, I would say that is kind of my journey to waking up and creating more freedom in my life, as well as I would also argue to say that my journey of like practicing to be myself, practicing to be authentic, to find my voice, all of these things is a piece of that freedom too. Because if you can't be yourself and you can't find your voice, you don't have that freedom. You can't, you're stuck in this shell. I talk to so many people that have the same views as me, but when I post about it online, they go, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had the courage to do this. I wish I like, thank you so much for speaking out," or, you know, I, they resonate, but they're way too scared to speak about it. And they have no friends. They have no aligned friends, and they feel alone. And, you know, they're struggling with dating because, and it all comes back to keeping yourself so small and not being in alignment with who you are. So I would say that's a massive piece of my awakening and creating more freedom, is that becoming myself and becoming authentic.
Well, I'm glad you woke up. Your story resonates so deeply with me. And yeah, oh my goodness, did I used to be a liberal? Like, and yeah, there was times my dad was a conservative and I was like, how dare you be conservative and put, like, I remember just getting in so many arguments. And yeah, like, it's so wild when you can look back and like, look, like, I was a liberal dater. Like, I went to the climate change thing in Toronto, like, rally in Toronto, like,
No way.
and yeah, like, I took the day off work and like, I told all my students at the time, I was like, this is so important. I didn't even know if I wanted a family, because I was like, the world is on fire and like the world's going to end soon because of climate change.
Totally. I hear that.
And it's so interesting because yeah, like, that was, your story resonates so deeply with me because that's exactly kind of where I was. And I'm so glad that you were able to find your voice and be that voice for other people who maybe just don't have the courage yet, who are still maybe going along ticking the boxes because they've been programmed to do that. And it's so good that you've been able to sort of experience what it feels like to step out of the box and just say, like, no, you know what, I strongly believe in this. I'm going to say something about it, and I'm also going to help so many other women who are maybe scared, or like, I don't know, like, even if they're not posting online, wouldn't it be cool if they could like go on a date and just say that thing that are they feel in their heart? And it's so beautiful because then with that authenticity, you get this inbuilt filter. So by you saying those things, you all of a sudden, like, and I'm sure you witnessed this, that a lot of people sort of pulled out of your life. And same for me, like, a lot of people are like, ooh, yeah, like, that's not for me. And I was like, great. Like, not great. I'm going to miss you and the times that we had, and I can love and respect you and your choices. And like, now I know where to put my energy. And that's so important because energy is, it's not limited, but it is something precious to us that we want to put towards aligned projects, aligned friends and relationships. So I'm so glad that you were able to sort of like listen to your own heart and say, like, this doesn't add up.
Totally. Yeah, it is a great filter. A great
Yeah.
filter. So, yeah.
And not saying you can't hold relationships and understanding for others, but I think it's also like, where am I going to like put my big amounts of energy into, like, in those friendships, in those relationships, in those, whether it's like school or something like that. Because you're right, if you had have gone down that path and put your energy into that, you would have been embarking and sort of putting yourself into a system that doesn't, like, would automatically just like have you wearing, kind of like, not wearing physically a mask, but maybe but like having that your whole life and having to kind of stay in that to be in clinics or to do the things that you wanted to do. So I'm glad that your coach Kaylor was able to say that you were ready and see that in you, because that's really beautiful, and now you help so many women and people around the world. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was there a first step that you took? Like, what was sort of the first thing that you sort of did? I know you talked about dropping out of school. Was that kind of the moment where you were like, I'm going to do this one thing, and then that was like the catalyst to everything else?
Yeah. I mean, I hired a coach, and I would say that was the catalyst. So I knew that I had this passion and this drive to help people, and I had loved personal growth and development for a long time. Um, so I knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to help people, but I was so scared. And I know there's a lot of people out there that feel this way. They feel like they're not ready and they feel like they're scared. And so, like I said, I hired Kaylor, I hired a coach, and I originally hired him just for life coaching. Like I was like, I just want to grow. I want to evolve. I want to, get better. And then down the road, I'll be even more ready to be a coach kind of thing. And when I got on the phone with him, basically what he said to me was, Terri, most people that come to me for life coaching are in absolute crisis mode. They're in crisis mode. They really need help. They're going through something possibly catastrophic. And he said, you're just simply not that. Like, you're doing amazing. You're in an amazing place in your life. You need to start coaching. You don't need coaching. You need to start coaching. You need business coaching, basically. And so I signed up for his business coaching program and I dove in right away. And then I wasn't really dead set. I was kind of like, I'm still going to finish my degree. I'll just do this on the side, that kind of thing. But then as I dove in and I started making money, I was like, okay, I don't want to do another 7 years of school to get a physiotherapy piece of paper that I probably am not going to use. So I decided to drop out, and it's really crazy because I feel like prior to that point, I was kind of keeping myself small. I had just moved to this new city. I was keeping myself small. I didn't have any friends. I felt like since I didn't have any friends, I needed to keep myself small to make the friends that I could make. It was like, oh, okay, well, Sally Susie over here is super, super liberal and, the whole shebang. But like, I'll be friends with her because like, I don't agree with any of her views, but I'll be friends with her because I have no friends, And so when I was able to drop that mentality and be okay with like not having any friends and this period of time of not having any friends, being myself, being uncomfortable, I had, people confront me at school about the things I was posting online. Like I would post stuff about anti-feminism and like, feminine energy and things like that. And then people would confront me at school about it. And so it was really uncomfortable, And so I would say this season was the season that shifted everything and showed me that when you bet on yourself and you dive deep into yourself, the right people, the right opportunities happen. But it doesn't happen when you keep yourself small and you're inauthentic and you are not yourself. So yeah, so like I said, so then I decided to drop out, not finish my degree. And it is so crazy how much pushback I got from deciding to not finish this degree that I didn't want, And I was only 1 year in, and so many people gave me so much pushback for not wanting to finish it, even though I was paying for it myself. So I didn't want to pay for something I didn't want. And then that time, it would have been another 3 years to finish my degree, and then another 3 after that, probably to finish my master's in physio. So I just think this like idea of like, oh, you just have to go to school for something, like it doesn't matter what it is, but for something is kind of insane because it's such a waste of money if it's something that you're not passionate about. And don't get me wrong, if you grow up and you're like, I want to be a doctor and that has been my mission my whole life, like, yeah, then you have to go to school for that. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. That was a bit of a ramble.
Yeah, no, that's great. It really, I feel like I would highly encourage people to like, if you can make it work, hiring a coach or becoming a part of a community or just finding like, I know like therapy can work sometimes, but I found like one of my biggest revolutions and pieces of like stepping out of my small self was hiring a coach. And I feel like that is such a beautiful way to sort of get out of your own way and then reinvest that time and energy into yourself. And like, I mean, yeah, like school costs a lot of money and so do coaching. But what do you get out of it at the end? Like at the end of school, you get a degree. At the end of let's say a business style coaching, you get a business. So like, and it's so wild to me that people would push back on that. It's like we've been so conditioned to be like, well, these are the things that you have to do, and that makes you more legitimate, and that makes you more what, fill in the blank word. And yet here you are actually affecting people's lives after a short amount of time, and you've acquired all of these skills, this huge community, and now you're working for yourself, for other women, and like your reach is so much more vast in the world versus you would have still been stuck in school trying so desperately and paying so much money to tick that box. So how did it feel when people were like, what are you doing? Like, you're crazy for letting go of this thing. Like, how did that feel for you?
Oh my gosh, it felt terrifying. Like it felt so uncomfortable and it felt terrifying. Um, and I definitely questioned myself, but I also kind of like, I don't know, it also felt a little liberating. Like when people would bring it up to me, there was an aspect that was terrifying, but then also at the same time, when I stood up for myself and said, yeah, this is what I'm doing and that's that kind of thing, it felt very freeing. And I know that the biggest thing for me was at the time I was renting a bedroom, living with this family, and they were so amazing. I honestly grew to really, really love this family. But the mom, she gave me a ton of pushback for wanting to drop out of university. And I think it came from a place of fear from her that like both of her boys had gone through university. They are, the one is in engineering, the one is in accounting, and they are going to be successful in what they do. And I think it was a lot of fear. I got a lot of fear from people going like, oh, well, this is not going to work for you. Like, this is not going to work for you. It doesn't work. You see all these people it doesn't work for, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's why it's so important to have a community around you and to have a coach that when you have doubts, you can go to and say, hey, like, Sally said this to me and I'm scared now, and they can kind of get you on the right track. But yeah, no, I was scared. I was scared. I doubted myself. It felt uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable being at school. I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just among a bunch of people that are in the system that I don't want to be in, and all of that. But over time, it became so freeing. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's very uncomfortable at first, but you put in the reps, you practice, you get through it, and then it's so freeing.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. To really stand your ground like that, there's a fear in it, but like the feeling afterwards, I almost compare it to like a cold plunge or something like that. Like, you're scared going in, it feels horrible in the moment, you're terrified, you're like, I want to get out of this so badly, but the feeling afterwards where you're like, whoa, I just did that, I just stood my ground, I just did that hard thing, like the reward that you feel is so much greater than the reward that you would have had to like stay in what you were doing, or to sort of like just succumb to the pushback. Like, that's such a cool feeling that you were able to walk away feeling more empowered and not less, or sucked into that frequency of fear.
Totally.
Yeah. So you talked about it felt really freeing. So I want to bring it around, and we ask every guest on the podcast, if you could define freedom for yourself, what does that look like, feel like? How does it show up in your everyday? What is freedom for you?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's so many aspects of freedom. You can go very typical, like financial, location, all of that. Having financial freedom is huge. Having location freedom is huge, especially with like the way our political climate is. I like knowing that I have the ability to like get up and leave if I need to, and I have the monetary sources to do so, and the ability location wise. Like, I'm not tied to, a job here or something like that, right? So I think that aspect of freedom is huge. I also think that having a vast amount of knowledge does create a lot of freedom. So having knowledge about our political system, having knowledge about the financial system, having knowledge about how to grow your own food, for example, is freedom. Because say if there was a freaking apocalypse tomorrow, you could grow your own food or have chickens or whatever it is. So I think it's gaining that knowledge in different areas that are important for your own freedom, for sustainability. And then it also comes down to your mindset, which I think is like the number one thing when it comes to freedom, because there can be one person that has so much money, they have location freedom, they have all of this stuff, and they still feel like they are trapped. They still feel like they are stuck in this cage. They are not free. They blame everything on the government. They think that everything else is the problem. They take no accountability. I would say that the number one thing that your freedom lies in is you and your own accountability. It's not the government. It's not, all of this other external stuff. It's, hey, look inwards. I really like Corey George's perspective on, do you remember him speaking at the summit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard him do that similar speech, I think 2 or 3 times or something like that. And it's so good. And I think he really exemplifies freedom, in the sense that like, yeah, okay, the government is applying these tariffs and increasing taxes and whatever it may be. And inflation is at an all-time high. And don't get me wrong, that's incredibly awful. And I feel for everybody that cannot pay their bills and all of that. But in the same token, we have to all take incredible accountability for where we are at and for our life, in the sense that we all have the same opportunities. We all have the same opportunities. If we're talking about Sally that's having a hard time putting food on her plate, she can create an online business to make income. She has the same things available to her. She needs to educate herself. She needs to take accountability. She needs to really step into it. And I get that we're all handed different cards and we, all go through different circumstances in life that create these different stories and subconscious beliefs and, added challenges for sure. But I think that, yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I think that the number one thing that creates freedom in your life is your own accountability on your own life, because it's not the government that traps you, it's yourself.
That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it's so easy to blame everything around you, to be like, this is what's wrong and the government this, and they're not being fair to me or something like that. But yeah, it's about, you could have created this wonderful life for yourself and yet you still feel stuck. Well, if you do everything on the external and you're still feeling trapped, then there's something else going on there. And I think then turning that sort of mirror around and saying like, okay, what inside of me is feeling stuck still? I know I'm super curious about, let's say someone's feeling stuck in a relationship, because this is your field of expertise. Like, if they are not feeling free in a relationship, where do we start to look? Like, where's that definition of freedom in relationship in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. It can be so many different things. I feel like if someone's feeling stuck and not free in a relationship, it comes down to a huge misalignment and maybe feeling trapped, like not being able to speak out and feeling trapped in that sense. I know that's very common with women, is feeling trapped in that sense and not being able to speak out, not being in alignment, not staying true to yourself. Maybe you're not getting treated the way that you deserve to be treated, but you're like, okay, well, it's good enough. Like, I guess I'll settle. He doesn't really like give me much effort. He doesn't really do this. He doesn't really do that. Like, whatever it may be. But you know what? At least I have a man. I'm more scared to be alone than to, right? And I think that happens so much with women, is like settling for that. And your body, you feel it in your body, when you are settling for someone who You know you deserve better. You know you deserve to get treated better. You know you deserve a better life. Or maybe it's a misalignment. Maybe your boyfriend is like so happy to just play video games all the time, and that's his life aspiration, is to play video games, and that's that. And you have these big dreams, these goals. You want so much more for your life, and you know there's a misalignment, but you're not willing to step out of that relationship. Then you're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel stuck. And it's often going to show up in your body. It might even show up as like an autoimmune disorder. It might show up as being very sick, because when you're in misalignment for so long in these relationships, it literally will show up in your body. You're showing your body, I'm not in this like safe, aligned situation. I don't want to be in this situation, but I'm not willing to step out. So I'm going to stay in this uncomfortable situation and make myself sick. It happens all the time.
Yeah, our emotional states and our bodies are so perceptive of what's going on in our outside world. And we've had many conversations on the podcast where it's like, your body, you can learn by practicing how to trust the signals that are going on. And yeah, it's absolutely wild now, the new research that is coming out around what our brains and our minds and our mindsets can do to our own bodies and the afflictions that we bring upon ourselves. It's a wild, like, I feel like maybe not new, but the fact that like we are discovering more and more about this is really incredible. And I love that advice that like, if you're feeling stuck, again, it's all about what is inside of you and living into that piece of authenticity for yourself. And that takes accountability.
It does.
I feel like if you have anything else that you want to leave our listeners with, as far as advice goes, if they are feeling stuck or don't know where to start, let's hear it.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're feeling stuck in the dating game, whether you're in a relationship or you are actively going on dates looking for your husband and you're just wondering, why not me? Why haven't I found my person? And looking around at all these people, getting engaged and in these happy relationships, and why not me? Get help, like don't wait on that. Get help. It starts with you. You need to work on yourself, but you need to know where to start, and you need to know just get help. It doesn't have to be from me. It can be from, anyone that you feel like is good in that world. Because you can waste a lot of time and a lot of years just kind of puttering around and hoping and wishing that you find your person, but it doesn't happen like that. So that's what I would say, is hiring a coach is very valuable for whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like getting that a third set of eyes onto a situation to be like, because your partner's not going to solve it for you. You're maybe blind to whatever patterns you're stuck in. Maybe you don't even realize that you've handcuffed yourself to this relationship because there's love and feelings and attachment and like all these things, whether it's love for a partner or a job or a situation or a city. Like sometimes we become so blind to what it is. So I think asking for help is really key in that. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. This has been amazing. And I feel like our listeners are going to walk away feeling just that little bit of like, okay, you know what? I can do this. I could start looking for someone to hire to help me out, to just sort of like give me a little boost of confidence or guidance like that in and of itself, to admit that you maybe need a little bit of help. That's a great first step and can be so freeing. So Terri, if our listeners wanted to find out more about you, I know you're running, you have your own podcast, you have your own company. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because it's really exciting. You've got so much going on.
Yeah, sure. So I've got my own podcast. It's called the Unhinged and Healing Podcast. And then I also have a tallow skincare business called Fat and Sassy. So that I'm on Instagram for that. And that is Fat and Sassy Tallow, the Instagram handle. And then my own Instagram handle, where you'll find me, you find all of my coaching content, all my personal content, all that shebang, is Terri_Boucher.
Awesome. Cool. I will list all of that in the podcast, and I hope you guys all go and check that out. Thank you so much for being here today, Terri. This has been great.
Thanks for having me.
What a conversation with Terri. I just love how she brings the heat and the heart, from raising our standards to reconnecting with who we really are. That chat was total permission slips to stop settling and start owning your own worth. So if this episode spoke to you, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a review, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear this today. It seriously helps the show grow and reach more freedom seekers like you. So thanks for listening, and stay tuned for our episode next week of Becoming Unbound.